You guys hear the little bleeps when I get messages on my screen? Good. I'm not sure how to make them stop.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're playing a little video game or something.
We've been using the Microsoft Team chat feature a lot for our management team, and so I've got it installed on my laptop, and the messages just pop up whenever they send one, and I'm not quite sure how to make them not pop up. But
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Does that
Rosemary.
make you feel welcome, Rod?
Hi.
both out here and from Ron's office, so we're experimenting here with slightly more distance, so we don't hear each other multiple ways.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to come to any conclusions today. We're really not going to have to vote on anything today. This is more of just like an update of what's going on in the fast moving stream, which is our, what we have going on. We may depart from the agenda a little bit and just have Sarah kind of update us on what's going on today compared to what's going on yesterday and what we need to look forward to.
Tomorrow.
The president or the governor's address today really didn't add any kind of clarity to anything that was going on. So I'm hoping for more on Monday. So we may not necessarily follow the agenda. We're not going to get too far into the weeds into this. It's just more of an update of where we are today, looking at where we could possibly be a week or 10 days from now.
Jim, I did not hear from JJ either way, so I
Okay.
don't know if he's going to be joining us or not.
Well, let's get started then. And then if JJ joins us, he can join us. He knows
Heather
where
would
we
be
are.
joining us too, though.
Who?
I thought Heather would be joining us to take minutes, so hang on just one second.
Okay.
Did we lose Roger?
She is trying to get in here, so give her just a minute here to get signed in. And our live stream is up now. There's Heather.
Hi, Heather.
I made it. It finally went. My computer was stuck. I apologize.
That's all
Right,
right.
all right. All right, we ready to go?
Yep.
Sarah,
Yes.
ready to go? Okay. All right, let's call this to order. And let us have a update from Sarah regarding the phase 1 return service.
So I tried to make your notes pretty extensive to cover most of what we're thinking right now, but that changes all the time. On Monday, we thought we were doing a drive-through in the parking garage, and then on Monday afternoon, we realized that we'd be better off just starting with curbside out the front door. But in all likelihood, as we started looking towards phase 2, curbside is going to be part of our long-term process in phase 2. And rather than train patrons on a drive-through in phase 1 and then switch them, we thought we'll just start out the front door with the curbside service for phase 1. And then, as you could see in the notes I sent, we're working on a lot of different planning for phase 2 that I'm sure will change as we get more information from the governor regarding the guidelines they're going to be putting out. OLC, Michelle Francis emailed today. I think I had mentioned that there's a study coming from IMLS and Battelle on the safe handling of materials for libraries and museums, which will be beneficial. But OLC should be sharing some outlines and some guidelines early next week for libraries as well. So I've given you, what we're thinking about right now, but that might change even by next Friday if we're meeting again next Friday.
Sarah, can I just clarify, the curbside service is for book returns?
The curbside service, as we have it written at the moment, when we start that, we would have the book drop unlocked. So returns will go into the exterior book drop, and then people will can request materials to be picked up as well.
Oh, okay.
So, it would be something like what the grocery stores are doing. You're going to have to call in and make a reservation for your time and for what materials you want. It might be things that you have on hold already and your hold is in, or maybe you're a family with young children and you just really need some new picture books and you don't care what they are, you just need something new. So, we can work with both of those sorts of scenarios for folks and then have materials ready for them to be picked up. They would already be checked out to them. I had initially been thinking we might do that as, bagging them and putting them in cars. After a Norweld virtual directors meeting this morning, a lot of libraries have breezeways they can do the drop there. We don't have quite that same setup, but we may look at some plastic totes that we could put outside. And so if you're in curbside spot 1, your things will be in this tote. There'll be staff in the atrium to keep an eye on things, but you would come get your things out of the tote and you would put your returns in the book drop. It's just to minimize any possible contact there in that phase 1's time.
And just to add to that, there's no libraries that have any kind of idea what they are going to be doing set in stone for anybody that Sarah's talked to. They are all pretty much a work in progress, are they not, Sarah?
Yeah, we kind of joke that things were set in mashed potatoes as opposed to sewn in stone because they just keep changing. There are some libraries that are, at least as of this morning, we're feeling pretty strongly that they were going to be doing some curbside. Especially the group I was with this morning was a lot of smaller libraries. So they're going to have a much smaller volume of business that they're going to be trying to do in that fashion. There may be a few here and there that are doing curbside right now that I don't think that would fit with the guidelines from OLC though.
Have you heard anything from Toledo or Columbus? Are they all still closed? Do they have any plans for curbside?
I have not heard anything on curbside from any of the metros, but I really can't imagine how a metro would be able to handle that very well. They'd have just such a tremendous volume of items. Not heard those sorts of things from metros yet.
Okay.
Pending anything that the governor says next week, are we assuming this is going to go May 3rd or what?
So if you had asked me 2 days ago, I would have said we were ready to start phase 1 on Monday, May 4th. And we still could, but that Michelle really recommends waiting for the study that's coming from Battelle and IMLS on safe material handling. The guidelines that we have put together are based on a webinar that was done by the CDC for IMLS. It was really clear in that conversation that happened that the representatives from the CDC didn't really understand how library materials are used and the sort of extreme contact that they would have with individuals. And so I think a lot of folks were just not very comfortable with the recommendations that came out of that. And so OLC and other groups really pushed for this study done with IMLS and Battelle.
Okay, that makes sense.
And do
So
we
I
know?
can't say that we're ready to go or that we're not ready to go. I can say that I'd like to get more information at the start of next week as to whether or not I would recommend go on May 4th.
When are they supposed to release those findings?
That is the frustrating part. The timeline for the results will be announced next week. Something I have not gotten past mulling around in my head, and so I don't really know how I would feel about a recommendation on this one way or the other yet. perhaps we could use curbside just for checkouts and still not accept returns. You know, the bigger risk factor is going to be in the materials coming back to the library, and that's what we don't exactly know how to handle right now. But certainly stores or restaurants are doing, you know, curbside pickup for food. I think we could be reasonably confident that we could handle that part safely. And we could just increase our limits for the number of items that individuals can have checked out for now, to allow, you know, individuals to just take more things home. You can't bring things back to us yet, but you can get some new items in your house at least. So I think that possible scenario could be ready to go May 4th, regardless of what happens with the study. But again, I think we also need to wait on the guidelines from the governor when he releases his plan on Monday.
All right, let's move on to phase 2 then.
So phase 2 is when we let patrons back into the building. And, you know, this is based on the information that we have now, which we'll have a whole lot more when we hear the governor's plan on Monday. But, you know, a lot of the standard measures that have been discussed are plexiglass barriers, you know, social distancing, of course, will be important, masks and hand sanitizer, limiting the number of people in your building. So we're looking at all of those various measures. We know with our public PCs that we can only use every third in order to keep people 6 feet apart. So we likely will need to decrease computer time limits to 30 minutes. We are also leaning towards eliminating all of the seating for the public, except for the public PCs and the new card station. We are really going to need to encourage people to make their library trips efficient. If we've got a limit on the number of people in the building, we need to be able to get people in and out so more people can come in. Obviously, no in-person programs would resume in phase 1. No meeting room space, because I think that will be used for quarantine. The electrostatic sanitizer that I had mentioned as well, we won't get that before the first week of June. And I think that's really a critical component. You know, we'll clean high touch areas all throughout the day, but to be able to efficiently sanitize the building as a whole, I think we need that equipment. It takes a job from hours to minutes, from my understanding.
And that's supposed to arrive the 1st of June?
First week of June.
Okay, and that is, you know, that's subject to change by the time we get off of this Zoom meeting. So, and definitely by Monday.
Sarah, what's our building square footage? How many people would that allow us to get in the building?
So the main level of the building we think is, I think James told me, is about 23,000. So
Okay.
there's not an official guideline that I've seen yet, and maybe the governor will have one. But I have seen mentioned, I think it's 5 people per 1,000 feet, I think is what I've seen mentioned. With me right at the moment. So, you know, we'd be looking at a really kind of a large number of people, I think. I think we also need to look at our spaces in the library and see what makes sense. We would have, depending on what we decide are the appropriate hours, and based on the rough first guess on possible schedules that managers have given me, we would have at least 40 staff members in the building, or up to 40 staff members in the building at any given time. And I think those folks need to be taken into that number as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
And the approximation with which they're working.
Right. You know, it makes a big difference if the people that come in are in the adult services department, or if they're in the children's department or the media services department.
Right, and unlike a lot of places, you're going to have families bringing their kids in to like the children's section, which is going to.
I think something that I will really need you to consider in the next week or so is whether or not we should require our patrons to wear a mask when they come in the library.
Yeah, I was just reading about that. I mean, can we get masks for them, those disposable? I've been trying to get some for my school. and not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it would not be an easy thing to do to be able to supply masks for all of our patrons, and it would be an extremely expensive thing to do on a long-term basis.
Right.
You know, certainly, hopefully, a number of people would wear their own. That may be part of the governor's recommendations. I think
Are you thinking staff should be wearing masks?
Yes, I think staff should be wearing masks anytime they're in a public space.
Will
Yeah.
you be taking temperatures of staff when you get to that point as they enter?
Yes, that's we have. Courtney's got maybe a half dozen various HR forms and policies for me to start looking at, and OLC is going to have some samples coming too, which I look forward to. So
They sell a really nice facial recognition thermometer for about $3,000.
I'm gonna guess that's not the one that James ordered, or he and I need to discuss this. I do know that he had some thermometers on order though that were no-touch thermometers.
Yeah.
You know, I watched a couple different legal webinars yesterday, and one was saying that you ought to have a medical professional taking temperatures. Well, that's not possible here. In lieu of that, you could have a manager trained to do it. That's what we would be looking at. We do have a sample wellness form. It was actually one that my husband encountered when he was doing some contract work for a large construction company. So we've kind of modeled our first draft off of that. I've also reached out to the prosecutor's office today to see if they've got any forms that they've already developed that they may be able to share. I know there's some other libraries that are working on things. I would especially expect some of the large metros who have whole HR departments who may be developing some things to share with the rest of us as well.
You may want to reach out to Lee Sidonic with the task force, because they're developing some paperwork, and they're having conversations with ODH about things like that.
Great, I will do that.
Yeah.
I know something else that we'll be looking at and figuring out here in the days to come is how the new FMLA rules work. You know, I know we've got a number of staff members who have kids at home who, at least for another month, are homeschooling, and until they open daycares back up, that could be some issues that we're running into as well. So I've got a lot of questions, a lot of things we're exploring, and I unfortunately don't have a whole lot of firm answers for you on anything at this point.
I think it'll be quite a while before daycares open.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can't socially distance a 4-year-old.
You cannot, which is going to be a challenge that we'll run into here in the library and the children's department as well, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 4.
And this was just kind of for your information. I'm sure many of you saw the article from Findlay City Schools that was in the paper this week, where they mentioned when election results would be available. And so I checked that with the Hancock County Board of Elections, and they told me that there'll be unofficial results announced in the evening of May 28th, but the official results will be available late in the day on May 12th. I don't know how, normally what we're getting on election day, they're unofficial results, and they're usually stick from what I've seen. There's not a whole lot of change, but with so many ballots coming in via mail that don't have to be postmarked,
The absentee ballot was causing that.
more influential this time. Jerry, did you have anything?
So just that the Board of Elections is aware that coming in is going to be a much slower process than the normal time. That's the reason they want to have that leeway with the official.
Okay, so we probably can't necessarily feel super confident in the unofficial results on April 28th.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of too close to call issues on the ballot, though.
Mm-mm.
All right. And last item, anybody else have anything else to add for what we've talked to so far? Anything? All right, we need a motion to move into executive session to discuss some other issues.
So moved.
And that's specifically to discuss the compensation of a public employee is one of the reasons we can go into executive sessions.
Yes, we have a motion for, yes.
So that was Julie. I didn't hear who seconded it. If somebody did.
Karen,
Roger, do we need roll call for that one?
Yes, we should have.
Okay. Mr. Casey,
Yes.
Mrs. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes,
Dr. Dara. Dr. Dara is stuck.
Yeah.
He's already left to the breakout room. That is an affirmative. Dr. McIntosh,
yes.
Mrs. Rooker,
Yes.
and Mr. Preston.
Yes.
Okay, so board members, you should have on your screen, the host is inviting you to join breakout room 1. So this will be a separate room for us that will not be live streamed during executive session. And Heather, you are free to just sign off if you want, and I'll finish up the minutes.
Okay, so you know what to do.
Jerry, do you see the join button there?
Yep, I'm trying to.
Okay.
My computer is giving me a hard, difficult time. Hi, JJ.
What's up, Jerry?
Are they ignoring you?
I wish. All good.
All righty. Okay. Success.
Ron is still in the breakout room. In right corner, Ron. Where's your whole Zoom window? Well, I clicked on this thing down here. Well, just come stand out here. We're gonna go a little old school and he's just gonna listen from 6 feet away. Okay.
Great. Do we have a motion to leave executive session?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
And Jerry. Mrs. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Rooker? You're on mute, Mrs. Rooker. Thumbs up?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Dr. McIntosh,
Yes,
Dr. Dara,
Yes.
Mr. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. Casey,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
All right. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I just want to thank Sarah for keeping us informed and sending all of these scenarios and information. We really appreciate everything that you're doing to keep everything moving forward in a positive direction in a very questionable time.
Well, I appreciate that. I wish I could do more, give you more concrete information, but
We're all living that right now.
Yep.
Yes, we are.
Well, that's why we thought that it would be important just to sit down and talk for a half an hour a day, just to, make sure everybody was up to speed with what's going on up till now. And then won't be such a big bite next Friday.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All
Anything
right.
else,
Need
anybody?
to officially set a meeting time for next Friday?
How about 3:00?
That works.
3 o'clock.
Earlier.
My schedule's kind of
Everybody?
clear.
Next Friday at 3 o'clock. We will send you a Zoom invite for that. And another multitude of reports for you to peruse.
So everybody have a safe and healthy weekend.
You
You
too. Take
All
care,
right.
Judy.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Okay, now the last time